Good morning. Today in Washington, Prime Minister Netanyahu just spoke at the memorial honoring the late, amazing, heroic Senator Joe Lieberman, a proud American who was a stalwart of strength and support for Israel. And later at 2 p.m., he's going to speak to both houses of Congress, where 27 Congress people have already boycotted the speech of the only democracy in the Middle East. One of them is Rep. Jerry Nadler, a Jew who wrote the most repulsive post on Twitter and said that he will be coming, he won't boycott it, but yet he wrote the most disgusting things about the freely elected Prime Minister of Israel. You see, we're all getting carried away here. Those who hate Israel use the Prime Minister as an excuse for their hatred for Israel. But they don't hate Israel because of the Prime Minister. No matter what and who the Prime Minister would be, they would hate Israel because they hate Israel. But yet many Jews go along with this, thinking that it's okay because they don't hate Israel. They just hate the Prime Minister and they fall into the ploy. This week's Torah portion is the portion of Pinchas. And in the portion of Pinchas, we read about the splitting of the land of Israel amongst the 12 tribes. And we read of the 5 ladies, the daughters of Tzalafchad, from the tribe of Menashe, who had come and said, hey, the way it worked was the inheritance went through the fathers of the family so it could stay within the tribe, because when you married into another tribe, you joined that tribe. And they had no brothers, and they didn't want to lose their inheritance in the land of Israel. And God tells Moses that they're right. And in this week's Torah portion, we read about them again as they were splitting the land. And it tells us the daughters of Tzlavchad, of the child of Menashe, the child of Joseph. And Rashi asks right away, why is he called the child of Joseph? Don't we know that if he's a child of Menashe, then obviously he comes from Joseph? What's the message here? And the rabbis say that the message is a profound one. Because the Torah is telling us that just like Joseph loved the land of Israel, we all know that Joseph pleaded with the Jewish people when he passed that they should take and carry his coffin with them for 40 years through the desert. Years later, when they were freed from Egypt, they took the casket and they carried it all the way to the land of Israel. And the rabbis tell us that the reason why Joseph merited to be buried in the land of Israel when Moses didn't even is because Joseph always associated with Israel. When Pharaoh has him as a lad, as a slave in Egypt, he calls him a Hebrew, an Israeli. Because Joseph never hid who he was and he always stood with his people. And therefore Joseph merited that he should be buried in the land of Israel. And Rashi tells us this week that the reason why God attributes the daughters of Tzalafchad to Joseph is to let us know that when you love Israel and you care for Israel, and you're ready to give yourself over to Israel and be called by Israel, not hide and be shy from it, then you're guaranteed to give that nurture and love to your children and grandchildren. And that the daughters of Tzlavchad loved Israel so much and came heroically to Moses asking for their land and their portion of the land of Israel because of who their great-grandfather was, Joseph. So never underestimate the education and the nurture that we need to give our children to love the land of Israel. How? By loving it itself. Because the daughters of Tzalafchad loved Israel because of their father Joseph. Yesterday, Israel announced that 2 more hostages died in captivity. And one of the hostages was a 76-year-old man, Alex Vankin, who was born in Poland in 1948 to his parents who had just survived the Holocaust. And in 1957, they emigrated with him to Israel, where he ended up working for Yad Vashem, teaching and reminding people never to forget the Holocaust and to learn from the atrocities that happened. He taught young Israeli kids and he took them on trips to Poland. And he also brought educators from Poland to Yad Vashem to teach them what happened and how to prevent it. And just in November, when some of the hostages were released, one of the hostages said that she was with Alex in captivity. And even in captivity under Hamas, he was teaching about the Holocaust and educating never to forget and to remember the atrocities that happened. And that's the bottom line of what we can learn from this remarkable man who unfortunately got killed in his own Holocaust. He was born, the parents who had just survived and taught his whole life about the Holocaust. And yet, he died in his own Holocaust in captivity by Hamas. And with Jerry Nadler and these imbeciles who are boycotting the leader of the only democracy in the Middle East, speaking to the free world, they don't realize is that we as Jews will never give up. And we will continue educating and nurturing our children to remind them about the atrocities of the Holocaust and to educate them about what Israel does every single day to protect civilians, to protect Israel. And that Israel's hand has been stretched out in peace since its inception. And for Jews to join this in the sake and the name of peace and love shows the greatest lack of education and understanding of the current situation in the Middle East. We will be victorious, but it behooves each and every one of us to learn from the daughters of Tzlafchad and to learn from their great-grandfather Joseph, that because of his love for Israel, his grandchildren continued in that way. Today is also the yahrzeit of the late Myra Kraft, Allah Shalom, a remarkable woman who stood at the head of CJP for so many years, nurturing love for Israel and connection to our Judaism. And today in the morning at Shul, we had yahrzeit and we had some of her family here. We said Kaddish, and I spoke and I connected this idea of the daughters of Tzlafchad to Myra, Allah Shalom, because I know her children, I know her grandchildren, and of course her husband Bob. And their love for Israel comes because it was nurtured by a mother, just like the daughters of Tzlafchad were nurtured by their great-grandfather Joseph. May we all nurture our children and instill them with a love for Judaism, a love for America, and a love for Israel. God bless you and have a great day.